How do you know when you're going through divorce if you've got a healthy level of pressure that's actually helping you get things accomplished, or if you're dealing with stress that is completely overwhelming you and paralyzing you in your decision making process? I have the perfect expert on the show today to talk all about the idea between pressure, stress, and how you can use that to transform your life. Shairoz Gulamani is an award-winning executive coach and international speaker, and she works with high performers transforming that pressure into power. Shairoz, welcome. I'm so glad you're here to talk with us today.
Thank you so much for having me, Marty. I'm
And it
delighted
is
to.
and I'm so delighted to have you. And just full disclosure, I met Shairoz on a cruise, on a conference on a cruise, and we spent an amazing 8 days together. And I just so valued the information she shared, not only about her life and what she's been through, but also this whole idea of the difference between pressure and stress and how we can transform that into power. So tell us a little bit about your background.
Thanks, Marty. I'm an educator. My career has been through education, entrepreneurship, and business leadership. So I have been working with people under pressure in all kinds of industries for the last 3 decades. And I can honestly say I have lived pressure inside out.
And you know it's really very true that it takes a lived experience to understand what people are actually going through, and everybody's pressure and stress is a little bit different, isn't it?
Yes. You know, pressure sometimes people are not aware of what they're feeling and they don't know that they're under pressure. A tail sign is when you know that you're acting reactively rather than reflectively, that your clarity is not there. And when you don't have clear thinking, those decisions that you make are quite often rushed, hurried, and not thought out. So, having a regulated nervous system can correct all that so that we are able to then thrive under pressure instead of having it be a force that lessens our clarity and diminishes our value of decision making.
And I think this is something that I honestly have struggled with clients in my divorce coaching, because people don't understand how that overwhelm and that stress is not, it's not just like you can turn it off and make decisions, whether it's in your business, in your life, with your kids, whatever it may be. You can't just turn that off and make a clear-headed decision and then, okay, turn the pressure back on and then, go and maybe lay in bed and put the covers over your head. It doesn't, we don't work like that. How do you see pressure impacting people in an unhealthy way?
Yeah, just to use your example that you just brought up about divorce, it's probably one of the highest pressure things a person ever carries because it is not just logistics, right? It has to do with their identity. And here's what I've learned. Pressure does not break people because it's too heavy. It breaks them because no one has ever showed them how to stay present within it. The work is not about doing more or working harder. It's becoming more anchored. And the only way that you can feel that confidence, that clarity to be anchored is really by learning how to self regulate. Once we are able to ground ourselves, we are much, much more able to deal with the pressure and not do it by pushing it through because that's not where we're going to move forward.
Right.
It's not where our pressure turns into power.
Yeah, and thank you for saying that. And I have this, and I can't remember who did it. And I know there was like a TEDx talk that a guy did about a woman's brain, and it's like a plate of spaghetti, and a man's brain is like a waffle, and everything is in lines, and everything's got a little compartment. And a woman's brain, everything is interconnected. So when you talk about pressure and stress and intensity, um, and not just being a logical thing. I think for some people, and I'm sure there's some women that can do it more logically and more like a business decision, but for most, particularly women, it's very interconnected, like you said, to their identity, to their role as a mother and a wife and a caregiver and all the other roles that we have. And I really love that idea of being grounded.
I've had to learn it myself. As a businesswoman, 15 years ago, I had to close my last cafe. I had scaled multiple businesses, and unfortunately, COVID was a very challenging time for business owners. And so finally, I had to make the difficult decision to let go. And I remember being there the last day and staying until every last light was turned off. And I remember that when I was going through it, it really didn't feel like resilience. Honestly, it felt like failure because I felt like this was something that I had not accomplished. This was something that I had not done what I had set out to do, similar to a divorce. No one goes into a marriage thinking that they're going to end up in divorce. It's something that becomes unexpected. But what I learned that night was that it's not our fault, that this is one of the pressure tests that life gives us. And trust me, as you know, life gives us lots of pressure tests. And our key is to not take this as a sign of something that we have done wrong, because it is not. It is something that has happened. And pressure reveals who we are and our character by the choices that we make. And so me choosing to stay there that night, I could have just walked away and just made it clean, but I stayed because I wanted to be there until the end and know that I had the strength to not flinch and that I owned this. I owned this, and that I was going to be on the other side of it, a better person, that I was able to withstand what life was throwing me at this moment. And, it really has shaped the leader that I have become. And it has shaped the coach I've become because I have taught my clients the value of not pushing through it, but really being present in it. And when you do that, pressure works for you and not against you.
And I think that is a real shift in how most people see these big decisions. And so let's take a step away from even divorce, like becoming an empty nester, having, your job downsized where you find either you're only going to be offered part-time or maybe you're not going to be offered any job at all, having to close a business that you started as an entrepreneur. Sometimes even things like deciding to scale up as an entrepreneur is a real pressure point for a lot of people. And the whole idea of not, I'm a failure or I'm not doing this right, and switching that to what's the lesson I learned from this and how am I going to use this to move forward, that is such a positive shift to make.
Absolutely. You just said if you're scaling a business, so it's not something that's going wrong, it's something that's a growth opportunity. But there's pressure there too.
Yeah.
And one thing I've learned is that pressure doesn't wait for certainty. So sometimes you have to act and take action. And that taking action is what builds your confidence. I remember, if I can share a personal story, last year I had the opportunity to become the director of global talent for a festival that was taking place in Dubai that was going to attract an audience and did attract an audience of over 30,000 people. And my job was to recruit the talent to showcase at this festival. And I remember being at that first meeting and everyone, I knew it was going to be my turn soon to speak. And it was my first time being there. And I was quite honest, scared. I was nervous. It was like the imposter syndrome. What am I doing here? Do I belong here? There was so much self-doubt. But in that moment, I also believed in me and I knew that I had what it took and that staying quiet here and passing the opportunity to speak was not what I needed to do, that I needed to just take hold of this and speak. And so I did. And within seconds, I saw heads nodding, I saw people taking notes, I had a question, and all of a sudden I was in it. And what it did for me, it gave me the certainty that I needed to say, I may not know exactly what's going to happen next, but it's okay. It's not about perfection. It's about doing the right thing and knowing and building on it as you go around, as you go along, because that's where growth happens, right?
Yeah.
So that pressure, I could have just been silent in it, but instead I chose action, and that action propelled my confidence, and it became the most transformative experience I'd ever had.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that I want to highlight from, and I love that story, is it's intentional action. It's not just random, and it's not action that comes from the, oh my God, I got to do something right now, panic mode. It's very, you knew exactly what you wanted to say, and you knew why it was important to say it. And that is something we can use across all areas of our life, in our personal relationships, in our professional relationships, because so much of what I see in communication, particularly if there's emotions around it, negative emotions around it, it's going to be reactive rather than intentional. Would you agree that you see that too with a lot of the people that you work with? They're in that reactive pattern?
Yeah, and this is where neuroscience actually tells you that when you are under a lot of stress, your your body floods with cortisol and adrenaline. And when that happens, your reactive brain takes over. And that's where clarity diminishes, and you're not able to think clearly and make judgments soundly. It's when you ground yourself, you take that pause, you take a deep breath, you become present in that moment of the pressure. That's when your thinking brain comes back online.
Right.
And that's where you feel like, I may not know exactly what's happening, but I know that I'm in control,
Right.
right? And that's the game changer. That's what allows us to then move forward in a way that is true to what we're doing.
And that whole idea of, the neuroscience and the flooding of the brain, shutting off your frontal cortex, your thinking part, and going back into your reactive part of your brain. I mean, that's well researched now. And one of the things I find is fascinating, because I'm a bit of a science geek, and so I like reading this stuff and learning about this stuff, is that this can be like a chronic condition. Like, you can have chronic flooding of that cortisol if you're in a stressful personal relationship, or if you're in a hostile work environment, or if you're harassed or bothered, or you don't feel comfortable in your community or wherever it may be. That chronic flooding of your brain with that cortisol, that has huge, not just mental health, but physical health issues. Your immune system shuts down, your gut stops working. You're more likely to have cardiovascular issues. So learning how to not be reactive is a big thing for you in life, not just for business decisions or personal decisions, but for your overall life.
Absolutely. I'm so glad you said that, because so many people just don't even think about that. And, I see this in leaders that I work with. On the outside, they're so polished, they're so in control, they're so capable. But on the inside, they're exhausted. They don't know how to turn off. They're always on.
Yeah.
And that's not going to serve them, because one thing that I know for a fact is that when pressure becomes alive in us, it's both our mind and our body, and it actually takes residence in our body first, right? Which most people don't realize. They think it's up here, but it's actually here. And our thinking brain does send us signals when there is a lot of pressure. We're tired, we're irritable, we're not our own, great self, right? We're off, but we don't always listen to it.
Right.
And when we don't listen to that signal, and we continue to build and continue to add to the pressure and do more and work harder and all of that, at some point, it's going to come crashing down. there's, our bodies are definitely meant to carry pressure. That's our allostatic load. And our allostatic load tells us that we are humans and we are going to be under stress and we are built for that. But what we're not built for is continuously adding to our load, right?
Yeah.
At some point, we have to, and I call this my 3 R's, we have to rest, recover, and recalibrate. And until we can do that, often and when we need it, when we're really under that pressure is going to leak into our health. It's going to leak into our relationships and it's going to leak into our performance. And this is what leaders that I work with find is that continuing to hold that weight and serving everybody else and not doing any self-care that you need to do to, bring that pressure down. That's what makes performance and leadership unsustainable.
Right.
And so it is necessary for both our physical selves as well as our psychological selves to be able to do our 3 R's, to take that time that's needed to take care of us. Because
Yeah.
without us being well, everything else gets affected by it.
It does. And I'm glad that you said that. I really like that whole idea of the 3 R's because that makes it so simple and it makes it easy to comprehend. Now, it's not always so simple to put it into action. And that's why having a coach to help you understand, because we can all say, my office is literally 20 feet from my kitchen table. So it's not, well, it's probably not 20. It's probably more like 60. I don't know. It's down the hall. But the thing is, as an entrepreneur working from home with a home-based business where I see people on Zoom from wherever, it's really easy to find myself back here in the room at 9 or 10 or 11 o'clock at night thinking, I'm just going to check my emails one more time, or I'm going to respond to this email. And I had to learn, at 6 o'clock, I walk out of this room, I close the door and I don't open it again. And I don't carry around stuff like I don't, work on it because it was getting so that I was spending 80 hours a week relaxing as an entrepreneur. And that's just crazy. It doesn't make any sense at all.
Absolutely, because no one who goes into business, both you or me, when we started our own businesses, no one said, this is a life I choose where I'm working 80 hours a week. I
Right.
remember before we closed our last Vivito, when I would take vacations, I was still on. I was
Yeah.
still answering emails. I was still putting out fires. I was still doing. It was that first vacation I took after my last business closed, before I started another one, but that I thought, oh my God, this is what it feels like. This is amazing. And that's something we can actually do all the time.
Yeah.
We just choose not to.
Right.
We can stop, and I call these my self-love shots. I take self-love shots and I encourage everyone that I work with to take self-love shots at least 2 or 3 times a day. And what are they? It's just 5 minutes, 2 seconds, whatever it is. Take a deep breath. Close put your discharge from your phone, go for a walk, call your mother, call somebody you love. Just engage in something different that
Yeah.
brings you joy, right? That regulates your body, that tells your nervous system you're not in threat mode. You're not always on overdrive, that
Right.
you're allowed to be just calm and at peace and feel happy. Not that work doesn't make us happy, because obviously we thrive in what we do and we love what we do. But there are pressures of that we need to then at the same time balance with other things that also bring us joy, that regulate our nervous system so that it's in a happier place.
Yeah.
And when we do that, we honestly become not only better humans, but we become sustainable humans and are able to do more and more. And when pressure hits us the next time, we're better able to handle it.
Yes. And Shyrose, thank you so much for saying that because I talk a lot with my clients about this. And the thing about divorce is it may be 6 months to get through it. It may be a year. It may be much longer than a year. But you have to be prepared to get through it And the one nice thing, if there is, about the whole divorce process is there is going to be an end at some point in time. Now, when that's going to be is going to be different for everybody, but there is going to be an end. And I think that in itself is something that we can use to kind of ground ourselves, that, kind of take a breath. Let's make the most effective decisions through this so that we can be successful on the other side. Shirose, what is one thing, if you had to give people a bit of advice about dealing with pressure in whatever situation it may be, what's that one piece of advice you'd like to leave everybody with?
Yeah, I think what I'd do is maybe share a tool with you that I use personally, and I've had my clients use, and that's pause, name, and choose. And what I mean by that is whenever you feel that overwhelm is starting to happen, when you know that I'm feeling icky, there's something happening to my nervous system here, and I need to stay present within it, pause. Ground yourself. Literally feel the floor beneath your feet. Take a deep breath. Close your eyes if that helps you. And just take a second. And then name the feeling. Because when you name what you're feeling, whether it's exhaustion, anxiousness, sadness, whatever that feeling is, that allows your thinking brain to come back on and tells your reactive brain to step aside. So you can start getting clearer again. And then the last one is to choose. And when you choose, don't look for the perfect solution. Just choose the next best thing to do. Whatever that might be, just choose the next best thing to do. And when you do those three things and take the 30 seconds that it takes to do that, that difference of doing the pause, name, and choose bridges the gap between the pressure and your reaction. And that's really where leadership lives and transformation begins.
What a great way to wrap this up. Shirose, if people want to find out more about what you do or want to work with you, what's the best way to reach out?
Go to www.pressurepoint.coach, and that's my website, and you can connect with me there and learn more about me.
And I will make sure all of that information gets in the show notes. Shirose, thank you so much for coming and sharing your important perspective on the difference between pressure and stress and how we can manage both. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Marty. This was a pleasure to be on.
Well, and I just love talking to people I know because we've already done all the initial conversations, so we're able to just dive right into the meat of the matter, and I really appreciate that. So if you enjoyed this version or this episode of Spotlight on the Divorce Expert, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. We will be checking back and we will be answering them.